Today's guest is Graham Barham, a Nashville artist with a catchy sound and style. Graham's been on a roll this year and isn't slowing down. Welcome, Graham.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So let's start back at the
Absolutely.
beginning. Where were you born and raised? And then how did music first come into your life?
Okay, so this is interesting. I was born and raised in a small town in Louisiana. Um, and I kind of found music like I think a lot of kids do, like through the church. And did that and yeah, my grandmother was very musical. Aside from my intermediate family, no one else really was musical in my family. Enjoyed music, but never really had pursued it in a career base. And yeah, so and that music was never something I thought that I was going to actually end up pursuing full time. It was always a passion of mine. Um, but eventually, when I got through high school, did the theater and was writing songs a little bit here and there, but really didn't know what I was doing. Just listening to a lot of Justin Bieber and Ed Sheeran, and for a country boy, that was kind of a rogue move.
Yeah,
Uh, playing those guys on the radio that a lot of girls are listening to. But that was always kind of what I gravitated to, and yeah, I mean, I started really getting serious about writing songs when I was probably about 17 and creating music, I guess, myself instead of just singing other people's music rather. And yeah, dude. So I actually I applied to a couple of different music schools and didn't think it was going to be the path. Just kind of did it, out of sheer, um, I guess, just to see what would happen. And ended up getting into Belmont University and went there for graduated in November of I guess this last fall. And yeah, dude, been totally throughout school. I mean, I was doing music, but never able to do it full time because, of course, school and working jobs here and there. But now I'm full time doing music and artistry and just trying to create and innovate every day.
that's awesome,
So
man. Yeah,
yeah,
a lot to unpack there. Let's take it back a bit.
right, yeah,
When did
it's an
you,
interesting story.
yeah. So before you wanted to be a musician, you said you didn't always want to do that for your life. What did you want to do? Do you remember?
Yeah, so for I mean, when I was really young, my father was a farmer and my mother was a school teacher. And so, I mean, I thought I was going to be a farmer growing up, and just a very, very small town mentality. You know, 100 people is where I grew up. So there wasn't a whole lot of, going for what I'm going for now. It didn't seem, as practical or feasible when you're that far from an area to be able to pursue something like that. So I guess, I thought I was just going to do what the rest of my family had done, something in agriculture. And I thought I'd probably go to the state school that was in Louisiana State, LSU,
Yeah.
and, just find something in agriculture and find myself back home. But um, I didn't, I guess. So,
Yeah.
I, yeah, it's an interesting story. I was actually doing country music for the longest time, and I'm jumping around everywhere, but it's such an interesting story from where I've been. But I did country music and still write country music and enjoy writing country music. But was actually pursuing country artistry for a while and played some shows with some guys that were doing country and really enjoyed it. But it just wasn't where my heart was at as far as my own stuff. I love country music. But that was what I came here to pursue was to write and perform country music. But I found myself back um, in the pop realm.
Interesting.
So
Is that the
that's it.
music that was kind of around you as you were listening while growing up? Is country music, or what was the style around you?
Yeah. So I mean, my parents, they were always playing. My dad was a big hair band guy, so I was listening to a lot of like Soundgarden, and there was Aerosmith, of course. My mom was a big 80s gal, so there was always some kind of, like Cyndi Lauper or something on of that nature. But yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, I grew up listening to a ton of 90s country, right? Like Brooks and Dunn, Alan Jackson, and of course in the early 2000s, Tim McGraw. He grew
Yeah.
up 5 minutes from where I'm born, in the same
Wow.
area. So yeah, I mean, country music is definitely where, uh, I love pop music, and that is definitely what I want to do. Hip hop, not more specifically. I love hip hop also, but I incorporate a lot of hip hop into my pop music. But the songwriting that I take from, is country, because it's a lot. I enjoy storytelling, and I love that aspect of country music. So I'd say that's where I get my inspiration from writing from.
That's
Funny
awesome.
enough.
Yeah, country's all about the
Yeah,
story writing. I think that's what draws most people to it, is the fact that it's about the
absolutely.
stories, you know. So that's awesome. When you first started writing, what did you start writing with? Did you just write with your voice? Was it guitar, piano? What was your avenue for it?
Oh gosh. I'm so strange. Yeah, I mean, I guess guitar, like, to a certain degree, but I'm really weird. I write songs in my voice memos. So I'll literally just be in the most random situation, in the shower, walking to my car or wherever, and I'll just think of a melody or something, or a line rather, and write it in my notes. Um, but it's usually melodic, and so I'll just like sing into my voice memos and be like, that would be something cool. Um, and then take, the stuff that I'd write in my notes and kind of put it toward the melody that I had come up with. And so I guess, to answer your question, I never really stuck to an instrument. Um, I mean, here and there I'd write to guitar, but for the most part, it was just all like off the cuff, off the head, just singing melodies.
Interesting. When did you start recording yourself, like beyond just the voice memos, like actually putting songs together?
Oh wow. So I was a junior in high school, and there was no like there were no studios where I was from, right? Like, to record music. It was all like, some guy may have had a basement and like a SM58, and he was going to track you through, garage band.
Yeah.
So I ended up driving to this city called Shreveport, Louisiana, which is like bigger in Louisiana. For city folks, it's like still a small town. Um, but there was a studio there. There's a guy, he was touring with a country artist, actually Neil Young at the time, and I paid him, like, I don't even know how much at this time. It was like probably a couple $100, and he recorded my first song, and it was it was very interesting. The song, I wrote it with a friend of mine, actually, who is in a band, who just moved to Nashville a few months ago. Um, so that's kind of funny, but yeah, recorded when I was 17, and ended up recording one more song after that in high school, I think. So yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool to hear that there was actually a studio out there that you could go record at. Happened to be with a guy who had a lot of experience, so I'm sure that helped.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, it wasn't the end all be all. It was like, in the
Yeah,
back of his house, but it worked.
yeah.
It worked.
And sometimes it's all you need.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
what was there a single moment where you'd say, it just clicked for you that you wanted to do music, or was it kind of just a gradual thing that you kind of grew into it? Or how did that go? And like what made you want to move out and do a music school or even give
Yeah,
it
there was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
or even just give it a chance, because you were saying it's one of those shot in the dark things. But what made you want to even just try it?
Yeah, so there's a really particular instance in my life where I was pretty dead set on going, or really trying to pursue it. So the first song that I wrote that actually really meant something to me, I had a best friend growing up, and his mother was a huge proponent of my music, and was just always so encouraging, and was like, you need to sing your own songs, and pursue your own artistry. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Um, but have always been the life of the party, and have always, loved being, I don't know if I'd say center of attention, but um, I like having a good time. And she was like, you should take that into your music, and create an atmosphere for people. And she, not to get morbid, but she ended up passing away from cancer. And I wrote a song for her as she was really ill. Before she passed away, I wrote a song for her about her passing and about her, hopefully going to heaven and whatnot. And I played it for her. And then a little side story, my parents were not really, they were not really on board with the whole like music idea. They were like, it's a good idea. I don't know if it's something you should really pursue. And I was like, well, I'm going to need help if I'm going to go like, all the way out to Nashville financially. I'm going to need some pennies. And she asked me before she passed away, my best friend's mother, to play it at her funeral. And I played the song at her funeral. And it was like that. I can't explain it. It was like something came over me and I was like, this is what I need to do until something else tells me not to. And that was definitely that was a turning point in my life. I think I was probably 18. I mean, I was about to go off to college. And my parents too were there, and their friends and family. And it was a special moment to get to share that with her. And also, I guess I found a little bit of myself that day as well. So
wow, that's an amazing story. And it's interesting to hear, because some people, it does just come gradually. Like, it's a thing, it's just over time their minds change. But the moments like that, they can change a person, just like you said, just in an instance. That's amazing.
absolutely.
So when you first moved to Nashville and you first got to Belmont, what was it like? Did it reach your expectations for what you were thinking Nashville would be like? Or is it different? Or what was your experience at first?
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have any expectations. When you come from a town of 100 people, you don't, you don't really see a lot of buildings, much less, tons of people. So I don't know. I guess I was just, I was open to whatever was thrown my way. I've always been kind of a go with the flow kind of guy. And I don't know. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I went here one time. I'd never been to Nashville. I toured it one time. And it was wonderful. And when I got here, I definitely was struck by the amount of people and the culture and the diversity in culture. I didn't grow up around a lot of diversity, and that was definitely cool. I mean, not just with ethnicity, but with, music and the creative side. And it had always been a little bit of a one lane where I was at, and there weren't like multiple avenues of creativity, I would say. And so that was just absolutely overwhelming at first. I was like, wow, like, everybody, when they come from a particular area, they're big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Not that I was a big fish in a small pond at all, but I was a fish in a pond that was not very big. And so being surrounded by people who were also big fish in a small pond, who were also incredibly talented, and were just so passionate about what they were doing, wasn't threatening, really and truly, but inspiring. And I guess I was overwhelmed with the amount of people there. I guess I'd never been around. There's always something to do in Nashville,
Yeah.
like on a Monday through Sunday, there's always something to do. And there's always music, there's always live music, which was awesome. That was something that I wasn't expecting, was to be able to constantly be around music. And the writing too. I didn't understand the writing at all. I don't think a lot of people, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I feel like a lot of people, when they move to Nashville or LA or New York or wherever it is, they don't really have a grasp of like, hey, there are people that write the songs for people that sing the songs, and there are people that write their own songs too, but that whole idea was just so foreign to me. So that was a big eye opener. That was a big
Yeah.
wakening up.
I bet. And even if they know, I feel like even if they do know that people write for other people, I don't think they grasp just how big of a network it is, and like how
Oh my
big of
goodness.
an industry it is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying those people those are my favorite kind of people, because they're the ones that are the writers that just, they're day in, day out, just grinding out songs. And you know, they don't even want any, a lot of them don't even want any gratitude from it. They just, or like anything, they just want to, you know, keep hustling and keep writing songs, keep writing great songs. That's something really special.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it sounds like the whole move to Nashville, it was almost just like a freedom for you, like an experience of just being able to open up to the world, and just have
Oh
the
yeah.
freedom to be seen and expressed and all that. So that's amazing. What was your experience at Belmont like? Do you feel like it was something you're glad you did? Did you learn a lot? What did you take from it?
Oh my gosh, I realized that it was an island of misfit toys. You know, I realized that I was one of the misfit toys. No, it was great, man. I loved my experience at Belmont. I had nothing but, you know, everybody there is trying to help in some way, some form or fashion. They're trying to help you figure out if this is what you want to do. And if it is, then they're absolutely willing to go the extra mile. And, you know, I enjoyed the smaller atmosphere. Um, I enjoyed being constantly surrounded by people that were just so much more talented than I was. And you know how people say, like, if you want to be to get better, you need to put yourself in front of people that are 5, 10 times better than you are. Well, that's how that was, and not only music, but in education, um, which is really neat. So I would say, in all, I really enjoyed my experience there for sure.
That's awesome. So eventually you started working on your own projects, and doing some more pop recordings and stuff like that. Tell us about the process leading up to that. Like, when did you decide that's what you wanted to do? And then what were the steps you had to take to make that happen for like recording and writing and all that?
Right. Yeah. Okay. This is interesting. So I it, to g- all right. So to back up a little bit, I started doing. So I was really into like Post Malone and like your guys that are singing that kind of like Bozzy. These guys that are singing like this very unique style pop. I'd say
Yeah.
is more hip hop oriented. But like electronically with production and like that kind of form. So I was going in and I was used to writing songs like we do in Nashville, and it's, you know, 3, 4 guys get around with a guitar and you're like, hey, well, what do you have any ideas, or what kind of song do you want to write? It's like, well, you know, that's not really how it is in pop music from what I've learned thus far. You know, it's just kind of like, hey, how are you feeling, or what, you know, what is on your mind. And uh it was really interesting. I was so used to like, uh, you know, in country, there's like a really, it's so beautiful because it's in my opinion, is some of the most wonderful writing, because it's not, it's repetitive in a sense, but you know, every lyric is just so focused on, in country music, because it's a story and that's what's important, you know. And I feel like pop is more melodically driven and more like, you know, catchy and rhythmic and trying to keep, you know, keep that ingrained in your head.
Yeah.
um, that was an interesting process, trying to figure out how to go from writing with 3 to 4 guitars to then working with producers and being like, hey, I have this melodic idea, do you mind if I just go in and sing it? And it might not even be any words, it might just be like la da 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 da, like whatever it may be. I have a cool melody, let me lay this down, and then, you know, you go back and write some lyrics to it. um which was way different from me. They call it top lining, writing. You go in and you sing on a melody, which was really cool for me. And that's how I started. You know, I was working with a guy who was, his name's Morgan Bernard. He's an awesome producer in town, does hip hop. And, you know, I knew that I wanted to get away from country, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be pop, but I didn't know how pop or how hip hop. And I love hip hop music. And so he's a hip hop producer. And so I was doing a lot of hip hop, which then I found out was uh, not really for me in a sense, with rapping, I guess, to go to say. Uh, and so I would just top line songs. And my first 3 songs that I have out right now, they were all top liners. I mean, I went in and, a lot of them were like freestyle 1 to 2 takes. And
Wow.
as a matter of fact, the third song, the first one I put out, it's only like 2 minutes long, and we did it so quickly. We wrote it in like 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just like one of those deals where everything just kind of happens, you can't really explain it. The second one I wrote with a buddy of mine, Jake Politti, who I work with now a lot production wise. We wrote the second one to a track also that Morgan had made. And then the third one as well, we did the same thing. And I ended up have a rap part in it that I did, and I just freestyled it. And then I woke up one day and I was like, man, this is not what I want to do. I do not want to do this like hip hop, trap pop. I want to do like more like bubblegum pop music, like Lainey and Love and Bieber, and kind of complements my voice better too.
Yeah.
And so yeah, now we kind of start off with my last two singles that are out, Rid of You and Cartier. Rid of You I wrote with just Jake and I in the room. Jake's an awesome producer as well. And we just wrote it, we started out with the MIDI keyboard and went from there, kind of built it up from the beginning. And the same thing with Cartier, but with different people, but the same idea.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's
Yeah,
cool to hear about the process and what it took to go from one step to the next. What do you hope
absolutely.
to accomplish? Like, what are your long-term goals with their music?
Yeah, dude. I I guess like grand scheme of things, I'd love to be an artist. I mean, that's like what I want to do, is to keep pursuing artistry. And I'm releasing a song every month for, I've been telling people like, the end of time, I'm going to keep releasing a song a month until people tell me to stop. But I would, I'd like to do artistry and to continue writing. And I'd like to be able to continue to do that for the rest of my life, and whatever. I don't necessarily have like, I'm not one of these guys. It's like, I want to be selling out arenas by 25, or I want to be super famous. Like that's not really how I look at it. I look at it as a sense of like, I really hope that I just grow exponentially in my artistry each year and I'm not declining.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It seems like you have a lot of not laid back, but more wide scale views of what you want with your music and like who you are as a musician. Like when you moved to Nashville, it wasn't like a competition, like you were saying. It was like, wow, it's so inspiring. And then now it's like you're not competing with everyone else. It seems like you're just competing with yourself to keep getting better. And I think that's going to be a very profitable way for you to go about and approach things, because once you remove that pressure of having to compete with everybody else, I think things will go really well for you, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. That's really kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
So, what advice would you give to artists who are just starting out, like who are maybe thinking of moving to Nashville, or who are thinking of, what style they want to go to? What advice would you give to people?
Open your ears and listen to all genres of music. Don't don't be somebody that watches the same movie every time. Don't watch just rom-coms or just horror movies. Watch all of them. Listen to all genres of music, man. I mean, you can. I find myself listening to anything from 80s to country to hip hop to all of it, and just to incorporate all that in there, because there's so much beauty in all that, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, like the cliche is like, don't give up. But I mean, I would say like, instead of don't give up, I would just say like, continue to pursue, authenticity in yourself and your creativity. And if I would say at the end of the day, if you're laying your head down and you're being like, I have done every single thing that I can do to help myself get to where I want to be, then go to sleep. But if you can't, then don't. you know
Yeah.
and for somebody moving to town, you just got to do it. I mean, you just got to pick your stuff up and go. And you got to do it for yourself, man. I mean, it sounds selfish, but a lot of people, they're like, I want to do this for, my family, and I want to do this to show people that I had the biggest chip on my shoulder for so long. And I was like, I'm going to do this because people were like rude to me in high school, or whatever it might have been, or like, they made fun of me for this. It's like, why are you like, at the end of the day, like, you got to do it for you, man. You got to do what you're doing because you love it, and you're doing it because you want to challenge yourself and you want to be the best version of yourself. And that's not just music, man. That's life. And yeah, I would just say, like, jump, take a leap of faith, dude, and work as hard as you can.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the thing about appeasing other people is that it seems like it's so hard to keep them appeased. I mean, you're just never going to hit that mark. So I totally agree with like just trying to do it for yourself.
Absolutely. You'll never make anybody, you'll never please anybody, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
especially in the digital age we live in.
Yeah, it's so much criticism. It's hard to catch up on. But yeah, I love what you're saying. What are you excited for that's coming up?
Oh my gosh. So much. I'm actually in a pop boy band. Um we're called Phil Street, and it's me and two other guys, and I'm so stoked. We're releasing a song a month as well. So I've got like two songs coming out each month for the following year. Which I'm just so excited about, dude. It's like more music. I just want to keep releasing music and just stay on top of things. I like the Russ effect. I don't know if you know the artist Russ is, but
Yeah, yeah,
he just keeps giving you content, and it's like some of it might be great for you and some of it might not be, but there's going to be something in there that everybody likes. And also, as an artist, you're just, like I said again, you're just growing. Um, and I love that. I'm so excited about that. I've been working with this guy named Harrison Hake. He's an incredible creative guy, and his vision that we've been working on recently is just, he's taken what I was trying to, envision for myself. He has taken it to the whole next level with my artistry, which I'm super stoked about. Because social media I was one of these guys that was like not really worried about socials or the image of myself in the sense of not like character or any of those traits, but like on a, when somebody sees you, it's like, well, what do they think? Is your music matching your person at
yeah,
all? And I was never really worried about that because I just love music. I was cared about the music. So I'm excited to be worried about all of the different factors now, I would say.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, man.
That's exciting. Yeah, and I think you've got great things coming up. I mean, you mentioned Jake a few times. I actually talked to Jake, I think about a week ago, and he's a good guy, and I think you guys have some great
Yeah.
stuff going on with the whole Phil Street stuff going on. I'm excited to hear it, and
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, I'm excited for what you've got going on. Um, where can our listeners find you on social media?
Yeah. So I'm just like at Graham Barham on everything. First name, last name. Uh, Instagram, Twitter. I haven't been tweeting as much. I can't like Twitter is such an interesting thing because I see tweets on my Instagram feed, so I'm not on it as much. But yeah, just first name, last name on all my socials, and Spotify and all the different platforms as well.